Posture is something I'm asked about all the time. What's the best posture to stand in? How should I sit? How should I set my desk up? Or what's the best chair to sit in? It's a very subjective topic, so I'll try to give you some tips on how to ensure you're always demonstrating good posture. G'day, how you going? Years ago when I was little, my older sister was studying fashion design at university, and fashion design obviously ties into the arts, and so much of her studies involved learning about the famous artists who were also great anatomists. So we talked more about drawing, how to draw hands and eyes and faces, things like this. But one thing she told me she had learned, which was of particular interest to me, was what one of the great artists, Leonardo da Vinci, had said about drawing the human form. And the suggestion was that when drawing the body in perfect posture, have the subject stand as if there were a plumb line coming directly out of the head, and imagine then if this person was suspended by that plumb line from a fixed point above, such that all of the body parts would come to rest where they may. Now, if you're held up in the air from above by this plumb line, your feet are going to point downwards, which is obviously not a part of good posture. For every other part of your body, however, it actually works quite nicely. So when following this prompt, imagine yourself being pulled upwards by this plumb line, but not to the point where your feet leave the ground. When I was studying chiropractic, we learnt about correct standing posture, and there are specific landmarks on your body that should line up with each other. For example, the external auditory meatus, which is your ear hole, should line up with the acromion process of the shoulder, intersect your third lumbar vertebral body, pass through the anterior third of the knee, and just in front of the lateral malleolus. But when you explain it like this to a patient, it takes all of about 5 seconds before they're fast asleep. When thinking back all those years ago to when I was having this conversation with my sister, the image of applying an upward force to a plumb line coming out of the crown of the head is a far better cue for achieving optimal posture. So today, when people ask me, Tom, how should I stand? I say to them simply, stand as if you were making the crown of your head the highest point of your body. And when you do this, you will exude good posture. So if I try and do that now, attempting to make the crown of my head the highest point of my body, I'm hoping what you'll see here is that those points roughly come into alignment. So this leads nicely into the next most obvious question, which is, what is good sitting posture? Now, sitting is a little different. When you sit on any chair, you can make the crown of your head the highest point of your body, which is great for your chest and neck region, but it neglects what's going on at the pelvis. Many people assume that you should sit with your knees level with the hips. Now, sitting like that forces you to use the strong hip flexor muscles so that you can maintain the lordosis in your lumbar spine and keep an upright posture. The problem is you'll get tired of this, and ultimately you'll start to slouch. Now, slouching isn't exactly bad for you, but if you slouch for hours and hours on end, 5 days a week, over the span of a 20, 30, 40-year working career, that is bad for your spine. It leads to too much compression of the anterior aspects of the disc, dehydration of these structures, and ultimately accelerates degeneration of the spine. Imagine for a moment that your pelvis is a bucket full of water. Ask yourself, what do you need to do to prevent any water from spilling out? Ideally, when you sit, you'll sit with your knees lower than your hips. Now, I'm sitting on a saddle seat, which is designed especially to facilitate this, but give it a go on the seat that you're trying on anyway. Sitting like this allows me to maintain an upright posture a lot more readily, and I don't have to contract my hip flexors. My legs can just relax downwards. This means that I'm less likely to tire through the lower back, slouch, and then tip any water out. The way I get people to sit is simply by telling them, sit as if you were riding a horse. So picture it now in your head, somebody riding horseback with their legs dangling down the sides of the horse. You can see how they can easily achieve a knees below hips position. And me on my saddle seat here, it's very easy to do. Not all of you will have a saddle seat, so if you want to follow me into the reception area here, you can see how we have another ergonomic sort of a chair here. The chair needs to be adjustable enough that it can be taller for tall people and get all the way down for shorter people. The seat angle is important as well. Can you tilt the seat downwards? When you tilt the seat downwards, that will enable you to achieve a knees below hips position. On this chair, it's got some cutaways, so it actually allows that without having to tilt the seat. The other thing is the depth of the seat. If you're a short person, sitting right into the back of the chair is going to raise your knees. You'll be inclined to want to sit forward so that you can lower your knees. So there's not a lot you can do about that. You just have to know whether you've got a seat that is short in depth or longer for a taller person. So you can see how all these attributes of a chair can start to open up a can of worms with respect to sitting posture. Nonetheless, the rule still applies. Sit as if you're riding a horse, ensuring that at all times the crown of your head is the tallest part of your body. Here's another thought on sitting posture for you. One of my university lecturers was asked once, what is the best chair to sit on? He said, pick the worst, most uncomfortable chair in the house. That way you won't want to sit on it at all. And it's an interesting point, and I quite like it because it reminds us really that regardless of what way you choose to sit in, sitting for extended periods of time isn't good for us. It's cliche, but our bodies are made to move, and it brings me back to my favourite saying, which is, it doesn't matter what direction, just keep moving. When people ask me, Tom, what's good posture, or how should I stand, how should I sit, I explain these things to them about the crown of your head being the highest point of your body, or sitting as if riding on horseback. But I always finish with this. When it comes to posture, the best posture is one that's always changing. That way you never give your joints and or your spine a chance to become overly compressed or irritated. Keep your eyes peeled for some spine-saving tips whilst working in the office. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Yeah, thanks mate. Good on you.